So last week, the demos, harvest, well, should be speaker unless I don't want them to speak. And we got an update from Bai about survey about how to redesign the admin. Today is the day, and today is the day. So we have demos, right?
Yeah, I have one demo yet. Indexing.
And it's not AI. I actually, it's funny, Mike, I say it's not AI. I did a demo yesterday, and it was AI.
What?
Yeah, I did an AI demo. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Recorded?
No, it was internal demo, just to show the progress of something I did on Aspire for AI.
Nice.
You will like it. You might want to use it. So that demos and topics. Let's see. Status. Last week was 5:27. This time I checked before. So this one, update analysis packages, docs, update packages. Cool. Backport, reset cached content elements from cloning a content item. It's not a recent one. I remember this one. Okay, cool. Dependency, benchmark.net, Elasticsearch, minor versions update, such a new API.
That one, actually, I found a bug in the library directly, so we might actually end up reverting that one if they don't fix it like today.
Okay, cool. You find an issue?
Yeah, I got them to get engaged. So either they fix it soon, today, tomorrow, or we're gonna revert it.
Update Amazon SDK. I'm surprised that Renovate would do something like this unless someone updated the PR. Yeah, probably someone updated the PR. A new container to mock S-Mail from Adobe. Interesting. Oh, it's the 4.0 version. So that was not that hard, actually.
No, it didn't do it. I did it. It did it, and it was failing, and I fixed it.
But you found the reasons. Okay, so why removing this constant? Oh, this is a type, which is not required. Okay.
Yeah, it's a breaking change.
Okay.
It's a breaking change, yeah.
Cool. Good job. Thank you. Lead phone number. These phone numbers. A, not super specific. Scroll. Okay. Yeah, it's like the time zones library that you have to update every 2 weeks because there is a new role. Okay, so that is done. Demo time. That was quick. That was quick. Demo time.
Yeah,
Mike,
that was quick. I am ready. I hit share. Why is it not sharing? Oh,
I can
see
hear
my
and
screen
see.
now.
Darren, do you see the
Okay.
screen? I can see the screen.
Yes.
Okay,
I get your screen. Yes.
All right, cool. So today's demo, so couple was it last week we talked about creating indexes for non-content, and that talk was related to Elasticsearch. Basically, how can we store non-content information in Elasticsearch using Orchard for those that want to utilize Orchard to manage other data on the top of content items? Which is something we also do today in Azure Search. And then Sebastian had to comment, well, how come we don't have one central place for all this? Which was a valid point, because currently we have a UI for Azure Admin, we have a UI for Elastic Admin, another UI for Lucent. And so all these search providers have their own UI, and someone has to manage those indexes in a different UI. And so we have a lot of repetitive code, a lot of just redundant. Everywhere you'll find redundant code. And another issue was that limitation that the indexes were completely tied to content items. So you can't create an index for data that are coming from other places. Like if you want to pull data through an API or whatever the case might be, you have no way of storing that data using what we have today. So taking all these things that we discovered and trying to improve. So what I did, and that's what I'll be demoing today, is I moved all these UIs under one UI, and this UI will allow us to manage all indexes, regardless of the provider, and will also give us ability to add index sources that are not content. Of course, that will require custom implementation, but with what we have today, you will soon be able to. So to get started, I've enabled all my search providers. I have Elasticsearch enabled. I have Azure Search AI, and also I have Lucent enabled. So if you go here now, you'll see in the search indexes, you'll see a new UI, which is very similar to what we see in the past. And now you have an option to add an index. Once you click add an index, you'll be able to select whichever provider you want along with its content. So, I'm sorry, along with its type. So in this case, this is, if you add this, this will add a content item index in, and it will store it inside Azure Search. So this will store content in Elasticsearch, and this will store content in Lucent. And then here you're able to add another, like if you want to put data coming from custom API into Lucent, then you can add your own custom source and store it in Lucent, and then you'll have the option here. So just to kind of show how this looks like, we'll have Lucent here, and then you'll get this UI. UI here require you to select index name, and you can have a display title. And then similar to what we done in the past, you'll have articles, and then and you'll save, and you can edit. As you can see, you can here select the default fields to query, and as you can see now, we're listing those instead of just giving you a text. We'll actually give you which ones you can select from. Those are the indexed fields, and you can select whichever one you want. You can allow Lucent queries if you want. You can change the version. You can also change the query analyzer if you want, but those are all options that you still have. You can do the same thing for Elastic. We can call it same thing, so it's a different provider. And similarly here, you're able to select whichever fields that you want to search by default. This is a new thing that was added. Before, this was a global settings and not per index, because sometimes you might create an index and you want to specify which field you want to search. So in this case, you can create the index and you can automatically configure the default query against that field. Here you can have a string. You can also specify a custom query instead of selecting a multi-field. So as you can see, because I selected multi-fields here, I'm seeing the fields. But you can use a custom query here. You can use like a highlighter, things like that. So this could be advanced query. And then once you're done, you can just hit save. And as you can see here, you'll see the display name of the index, and you also see the provider, right? You can't create the same index for the same provider 2 times. So articles is taken by Elastic. If I try to create another one, it will not let me. But if I want to create an article for Lucent or a different index, it should work. So the name of the index is unique to the provider. And similarly, you can also do the same thing for the Azure Search AI. So this is around the AI, and as you can see here, the messages have been updated. So now the synchronizing process was triggered in the background. So all the synchronization is happening in the background, and it's not going to hold up. Before, we had an issue where synchronization was happening at the end of the request, and it's not in the background, and it could take a long time, and it would hold the page. So now, after we reset or re-index or create an index, we automatically trigger the synchronization process, and that's in the background. When you look here at Elasticsearch, for example, you could click here and you have more options. So I also regroup these so we don't have too many buttons go on the same screen. So if you want to get index info, you can. If you want to query the index, you can just click on query index. And as you can see here, you can change the query and then you can hit run query and you'll see the results. So this query is just matches all when it gets that records. So you can do that here. You can do the same thing with query with Lucent because we have a UI to query that as well. So you can run it and you'll see if you have any or not. And then you can't do that with Azure AI Search because we don't have a query UI. Here also you can run similarly those queries. So you can select the index you want to query and you can run it. Do the same thing here and run it. And I don't know why this is returning no results. So I have to find out why. It should return at least one because it should be the same data as here. Whoops. Yeah. So it should have one record, but it's not returning. So I'll have to figure out why. So that's all inside the indexing feature. We had an indexing feature in the past, but it didn't have a UI. Another thing is that the way how we did the search settings on the front end. So now once you once you enable the search feature, you will be able to go to site search here and you'll be able to configure the settings. So in the past, we had different tabs, one tab for each provider, and that had a bug that was reported. And then also you have to specify the default query for each provider. So you'll have to select an index, and each index you have to say, I want this, whatever query that I want to be, I want that behavior to be queried. And so I also changed that because now that's part of each index. So each index can have its own different query strings. And then from here, you can just select whichever index you want to have as a default index. So you can have like, Elasticsearch here as a default. Now, if you go here, refresh this page. So this is the search, and here you go. Now this search happened on the Lucene the service provider. You can do the same thing with the other one, and here it searched the other one, and then you can change it if you want to Lucene. I'm guessing this one is going to return nothing. Yep, because it's seen an issue earlier. Why it's not returning one record. So it's doing exactly what I was expecting. So this was changed. So now you only have a single option that is required to tell it which is the default index that you want to use. And that's it on the search. And that's a new UI for the indexing where you're able to add indexes. Another thing that also there was some improvement around the code for Lucene. So Lucene, we had all the storage of the indexes would happen locally, which is fine because most likely you're using Lucene for development purposes. But you could also now the store itself is abstracted. So if you want to store, let's say the same indexes, let's say you want to put them in Azure Blob Storage, you can create an implementation of the store on the blob storage, for example, and all these indexes will be stored long term instead of it being just locally on your local machine. So I don't know if anybody will really implement that or care to do that, but that is an option if that is ever an option. So there's a lot of things around the code cleanup. A lot of code was removed. And also I added migrations path. So in the past, we stored the indexes different than we store them now. And with the new setup, I added migrations. So all the indexes that already are created, we'll migrate them automatically to this structure. And also another thing that one of the improvement is in the past, the full name of the index wasn't stored. By full name, I mean the index and also the prefix. So typically we use a prefix, like for Azure Search AI, for Elastic, on both of these, we have prefix where you can say every index that I want to create, I want you to prefix it with ABC. And so like production, right? So you might want to prefix all your production indexes with the prod and all the staging in staging. I don't know, whatever the prefix you might want to use. In the past, we didn't store that anywhere. So if you ever change the prefix for some reason, all your indexes will break because now the connection gets lost. It doesn't know what's the actual full name of the index is trying to connect to. So that also changed. Now we store that full name. So even if you change the prefix, that's not going to break existing indexes because we already know the prefix during the time of creating the index. So we save that as well. So even if you change the prefix, it doesn't really break anything old. It will just change it for the future. I hope that makes sense, but I know it might not be obvious because you would have to kind of look at the code to understand that. But that's all the changes. Obviously, there's a lot of work. I think nearly 400 files were changed for this. And there shouldn't be any breaking change. Of course, there's a binary breaking change. And if you're utilizing the Elasticsearch services directly, you will have breaking changes because a lot of the methods were renamed. But I don't expect people to break because people shouldn't really be utilizing our implementations. But if you are, you'll just have to either look at the new name or use the correct service moving forward. That is it. Questions, comments? I'm here.
Can you click edit on one of these indexes? Okay, so an index has a unique identifier.
Yes, right here.
Okay. From the front end, I think there is an API or a controller to search for a specific index, right?
Yes, and it's right here.
How does it look like on the front end?
Oh, on the front end, that's it right here, where you have a search.
But yeah, search, there is one argument where you can pass the index name.
Yeah. articles. So the second here is the name of the index.
So which one do you use then?
It should be, well, it's a full name. You know, a good idea, good thought. I think it actually has to be the full index name. No, wait, no, that actually have changed. It's the index ID now. So if you click here, let's say you want to target this one. So that's the ID, you got to provide the ID. And now you have that.
Okay, that was my question. But yeah, in this case, I think it might be better, instead of using a unique ID, to be able to set the technical name, even if it's auto-generated from name plus provider, like articles dash Elasticsearch, but so users can, I almost think that you should not have article as, well, there should be display text, but the index name should be editable. And should be
the
unique.
Name we can't.
And
This
should be
can't
unique across providers.
So this can't be changed because that's what we use to create the actual index in the provider, right? Once you create it, you can't really change it.
But then can you set it when you create it?
Can you set this?
When you create it?
Yeah.
So show me.
Yeah. So this is the name here. You can call it whatever you want right here.
So
now
then this should be used on the front end, not the ID. What's the point of the ID then?
Because that's not unique.
Okay.
What's unique is the full name.
Saying. That's what I'm saying.
We have the full name. Why did it? Okay, so the reason why I had to do it this way is for backward compatibility, and we have to keep it this way because someone could have created articles in Lucent and also articles in Elasticsearch. So we can't really now say, well, we can't do anything with one of them because one of them conflict with the other one. So to solve that problem, I made it unique for the provider, which is fair enough. Now, if you want the name, we can change this. Instead of passing an ID, we could pass the index full name. So the index full name, if you store it, because that would be unique. No, it still won't be really unique.
Then this thing should be, so if I should be able to type article-Elasticsearch myself and be used as a unique identifier of the index across sources, and it should be unique.
Why?
So I can type article-Elasticsearch here instead of this grid.
I mean, if we do that, I would have to add yet another field.
Well,
so
you have one
field index.
You have one. It's a unique ID right now. I should be able to set it myself instead of I generate it.
We could change it, but
or you remove whatever is called display text and use it as a unique display or name. Call it name, and it has to be unique. And you can use it as a display text, but call it name, so it's more like technical, but you use it in the front end and also in the URL, and it has to be unique.
I mean, we can capture a unique identifier. That's not a problem. Is there a reason why would you want to put that instead of ID?
Well, what do we use today here? I will reverse the question, sorry. But what do we use here today?
Today we put the name.
Exactly.
The index.
So
yes.
So that's why we use a name today, a name, not a randomly generated value here, right? It's a name that was typed by someone and that is used in the URLs. So first, you don't break URLs this way if you can keep that information. And this one is unique, so it should remain unique. So whatever was there before should still be available somewhere and should be used in this page still.
So whenever we're migrating old records, how would we generate that unique ID or unique
So what do you mean by all records? When we have
in the past, let's say we had an index called articles in Lucent and another articles in Elasticsearch.
Okay. So how was it
when you migrate them?
How was it working before?
Well, before it's different UI,
but
you would have to select the provider.
In the URL.
In the URL, so you put a name. So here's how it worked in the past.
Okay.
So you go in here, you set whichever index you want, okay? And then you also had a provider option. So you would select the provider
for the default
plus
search.
thing.
For the
Correct.
default search. I'm talking about specific URL with a specific index name. We take the example, we have Lucene and Elasticsearch, they are both called articles. What was I passing here in this URL to get the first articles or the second articles? Was it even working?
Yeah. Whatever index you put in here, along
Articles?
with whatever provider. Yeah. So if you put articles, if you put articles here, it will take that articles and it will look at the default index provider. So if you select your Elasticsearch and you put in here articles, then it will say, okay, so it's searching Elastic and there's the name, and that's how it worked. Which is not obviously very efficient, but that was the way to go. Now, if we want, we can create a new index. That would be fine. The only thing I would have to do when I do the migration is that if there is a naming conflict, I would have to name it something else internally. So it could be article 1, 2, 3, or article. Yeah.
We've been there. Administrator 1, 2, 3, same thing. I don't think it will be, we assume it won't be common, right? That people use both Lucene and Elasticsearch and name their indexes the same name. But if it happens, then we would have to generate a unique ID that is different. Yeah, I understand. But I think we should have a technical name instead of display text, because honestly, display text will be used where? Like here in this screen, and that's it, and somewhere else, like articles, parentheses, Elasticsearch. But if you have a name,
this will be here. Yeah.
If you have a name that is unique, take it as technically unique but visually displayable. It's the name, like our templates names or whatever name we have, and then we can use it technically and in display mode. That should solve the issue. And then you don't have to compute also your dropdowns to show. You might still want to show the source like Elasticsearch, but that's just UI, right? Because we don't expect to have.
Yeah, like right here.
So yeah, I would use unique names instead of display text. So that might simplify the work.
Okay.
You can use the unique ID if you want, or you can then remove the unique ID if you just added it because you found the limitations. Then you can remove the ID.
I would keep the ID, but probably get rid of the display text idea completely, and just say technical name, and then we'll display the technical name.
Just name.
Yeah,
just
name.
Just say it's unique.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I can do that.
So, and I have another comment, but it's like, I understand why you did that, but so when you create an index, you have sources. And these sources, they are both source and destination. It's like content Lucene, content Elasticsearch, content. It feels weird. Like I feel like I would like to say, I want to create a Lucene index. Okay, thanks. And now what do you want to add to your index? Oh, you want to add content items. Okay, good. So ideally for me, it would be like two choices, and content will not care about where it has to go. I wonder if here you have actually a source called content from Azure AI Search, which is different than the content from Elasticsearch. Is that two different copy-pasted code for this content, or do you generate these sources?
No, so you register them. You register each combination. So you can register content and Azure AI Search. And then that will allow you, because see, the thing is, when you do that, when you hit add this way in this screen, hey, we know this is a content. You see Azure Search AI /content here. So now because of that, well, we know the drivers know that, hey, I need to capture, for example, in this case, content types, because I need those to be able to index content, right? If you're doing a different.
But why isn't it one step where you select content and you have the settings for content? And then the second step where you select Lucene and then you have the settings for Lucene? Oh, okay. Like for content, you need the types, you need the field names, and that's it, right? And for Lucene, you need the analyzer, and that's it. So tomorrow, if I select, I want to index my users because I created a source. I want to select users and I have a custom code that extracts the users and everything in Lucene. The screen will also show me analyzer, which is from Lucene, right? But just, you see why I don't understand is why the source is coupling the source and the destination and the index. That feels weird.
Well, because like if you're trying to do users, then you'll switch this to users, right? So now you have, so you're saying I want to store users in Azure AI search, right? So now in your driver, you might want to like display a roles menu, right? So you can say, hey, I only want to index users within the administrator role, for example, right? So you driver need to be aware of the type of provider it is, the provider name, and also it needs to know that the type that you want to do something custom called users, and then only then
So go back. Imagine I have 5 sources: content, users, templates, I don't know, roles, whatever. I want to index many things, and I have 5 index sources. Indexes or servers: Lucene, Elasticsearch, whatever. Why would you show 25 squares instead of 5 sources and 5 destinations?
How would you list them?
Well, you know the sources, the deployments, the index sources, because content items, users, whatever content sources you might find. So you list them and you define them, and you have drivers for them. And then you have your list of indexes, like of indexers, Lucene, Elasticsearch, AI Search. It's a different thing. You know them. You have a list of providers for them, and you display them in a second step. Like, please select where you want to store that. And then when you build your screen, if you just want it on a screen, then you invoke the driver for the source itself, and you invoke the driver for the indexer itself, even in the same page if you want, or in 2 pages, in 2 steps, or in 2 tabs. I don't know.
Yeah. So today, you basically like if you want to have a driver, you implement the driver of the index. The index is each record. Right. So if you say, I want to, so for example, let me see if I have an example to show you what I mean by Elastic. Okay. So like this, I don't know if this is a good idea, but so here's one, right? So this one, it's an index or driver of an index entity. Okay. So this right here,
what version of the code is that, yours or the existing?
Yeah, this is the new code.
Okay.
So you're saying, I want to create a display driver for the index entity. Okay. And I want, in this case, to hook into the edits, right? As you can see here, I'm checking the index for the provider name. So in this case, I'm actually displaying this code every single time I'm creating Elastic provider, regardless of the type, because these are common, like analyzer name and analyzer. This is something specific for the provider. So I show this every single time. Same thing.
You invoke all the drivers for index entity and you just say, oh, are you Elasticsearch? Yes. Okay. So I can display something. Okay. Fine.
Exactly.
So this code is fine. I think it looks good. It's just one code. There is no content here, right? There is no content item source. So it could work for users.
So here, the same thing. Let me show you this, right? It's the same thing, right? It's the same exact thing. But in this case, I'm saying I only want to display this only if the provider is Elastic and the type is content. So in this
That's the
case, this
issue.
is only for the. Why is that an issue?
Why?
Because this
Well,
gives you, and
no,
then
wait,
sometimes.
I didn't finish my question. I'm looking for the words after the why. Why do you have anything specific to contents in this code? Where is something specific to content in this code?
Store source data. This
Source.
property is only for content and nothing else.
So it's not really decoupling, it's just because if tomorrow I want to index users, I need to know how to index users in Lucene, how to index users in AI search, how to index users in whatever. So there is no decoupling at all.
Yeah, there is no coupling. So you can index anything you want with the code today. Here's another example. Look at this driver.
It's coupled here. Like I see in the same class content and I see Elasticsearch. So that's literally coupling the source of content. You see that line 23, you check that the provider is Elasticsearch and that the index source is content. This is coupling contents and Elasticsearch.
It's not. This is a string value. I'm comparing it.
If tomorrow I want, let me show you an example. Tomorrow, I create my own indexing service, Sebastian Index on the web. And I want to create a provider in Orchard. Okay. I will have to implement the provider and how to index content, index source. Right?
No. If it's content, if you call it content, it will index it using one service for every single provider.
What do you mean if I create content? I have no idea what content is. I have no idea what user is. I want to provide the code to index something in my indexer.
Yeah.
Whatever the source is. I don't want to know the sources. I don't have to know the sources.
You don't have, so the provider name, it doesn't matter, but the type matters. So for example, let me show you the indexing service. So here's the content indexing service, and this one is for all providers. So that service is a single service. And you can just give it the index that you want to index, and it will go through them, and it will pull everything, based on the last ID we have set.
This one looks good. This one doesn't. If I search for Elasticsearch, if I search for Lucene in this class, I find nothing, right?
Yeah, it would work.
Good. Yeah, so this one is fine. This one can provide content to an indexer. This is totally fine. But the class,
this has to be a content, right? I mean, it doesn't index anything. Like the type has to be content. Because look, what we're doing here, we're querying content items. So you can't index, so this service, you can't really use it to index users, right? Fine. But you can use it to index.
This service is there as a source for content item and sends it to an anonymous indexer. Fine. And go at the top to see the class name. It's called content indexing service. Fine.
Correct.
What I'm saying is that if decoupling means there are different sources, here there was one content indexing service. Maybe tomorrow I will do user indexing service. I will do templates indexing service. I will do whatever indexing service, right? Or my custom thing indexing service, products indexing service which are not content items. I don't know. So this is one part of the decoupling. One of the couple doesn't know of the other. The other thing is the indexer. When I implement a module called my Sebastian indexer, I should not have anything in my module mentioning content sources like content index service or content item or whatever, because it could be users, it could be whatever. So I should not have to know about the sources themselves. That's the other part.
But the provider name is a string and the type is a string. So in the provider name, you can say Elasticsearch, right? So now your provider name is Elasticsearch, and type can be anything you want. You can call it users, you can call it whatever you want.
This part is fine.
And that, so I don't understand.
I saw. Yeah, but you can show me, if you create a module that is decoupled, you can show me 99% of the code that doesn't care about the other thing. If you show me 1% of the other thing, I will say it's not decoupled. There is still a link to something else. So here, this class here is in the search Elasticsearch module, and yet I see indexing contents.contents indexing source, which means if I wanted, if you see the contents indexing source constant here, that's coupling.
Line are you talking about? Line 23?
Line 23. Line 23.
Yeah.
This here shows me that this code needs to know about there is a content indexing source. So if tomorrow I decide to create a new users source with my custom users indexing service, I will have to change this module to support this new source. So it's coupled.
No, you wouldn't, because this right here. So, okay, so if this was a user, right? Say, let's change this to user or whatever you wanted to call it.
No,
okay.
Don't.
But hang on. Let me just finish. So in this case, you would create a driver that looks like this, right? And for the users, you will never capture this store source.
What I'm saying is that I am in Elasticsearch module. I should not even have to type users anywhere, contents anywhere.
But then how would you know that on the screen you want to capture the roles of the users, for example?
So
what do you mean how would I?
You agree there is coupling. How would you do that? Then how do you do that is in the screen, when you select, you show here are all the sources, users, contents, foo, whatever. And the users and the end user selects content items first. Okay, your UI knows the user selected the source name content items. Second screen, what is the indexer you want to send it to? Then you say Elasticsearch, boom. Now you, as the indexing module, you talk to the Elasticsearch module and to the indexer module or the source module, content intent, and you tell them, hey, you have to work together. This is you and this is you. Okay, and that's how it works. That's how we do everything in Orchard.
I don't think I understand this. What I did is what we do in Orchard, by the way. But
wait. Yes, because and that's why. So yes, we do it in Orchard because today it's totally coupled, and
it's not.
When I say today, I mean as of the main branch on the 3rd of June. This is totally coupled, right? Today, yes, this is totally coupled. What you are trying to do is to decouple things. So you have decoupled a lot of things, but here I see that and I'm like, still coupled. So what's the point? So you just need one more step.
It's not coupled though. It's not.
Line 23. Line 23.
That's not coupling. So this is only saying only render this view when this condition is met. But because this is something is specific for content.
Coupling.
Right. This is
coupling.
Yeah, I mean
coupling to content. Coupling to content.
Yeah, because that's what I want. I only want this to show up on the content. I do not want to show
coupling. Why do you want to show it just for the content? Now, if tomorrow I come with users, I mean, how do you, as the owner of Elasticsearch, will know that someone doesn't want it on the users or wants it on the users? I mean, now we have to talk to each other and to change our own codes because, there is someone else. So that's coupling.
I don't think I understand, because so if you're saying this is coupling, right? So you would want to see the code looking like this. Do I follow you so far?
So, and I will tell you why. Yes, and let me tell you why.
So, but hold on. Let me just make sure. I want to make sure I understand you. So this is what you're saying, right? So far.
No.
This is what you're.
I need to finish the yes. Why you say yes? Because you won't understand it all right. You can have some code that invokes all the drivers and that stops for something that say one of them don't do anything in this context. That's fine. If you remove the code selected, that's fine because all your conditions are based on stuff that are provided by your module or as an argument of the thing without you knowing a constant of contents. Okay? You can have some code, and we have lots of that in Orchard. You invoke all the drivers, and if the current context doesn't match, then you just keep. That's totally fine. What you would need here is replace your thing on the right, not by index.type not equal to that, but not equal to whatever the user wants to display or whatever the current source is. Not contents.index source, but whatever the current source is, a variable, not a constant. Something that is provided by the screen you are currently displaying.
Yeah, but that's okay. So the problem with that is that when you click here, right, at this point, before you render the screen, you need to know two things. You need to know the provider, and then also you need to know the type, so you can cater the view, the initial view, to whatever the user is creating. So in this case, when I say, hey, I want to create this content index, just at this, before my code, before this call is executed right here, I will say, okay, so here, so this call gets hit right here. Now we know that in the index that we're creating, it has both types, the content and elastic. So now I know because of that, I need to show this custom field because this is what the user needs to fill to have a successful index. So now I'm rendering this, I'm rendering the store, and that's all. It has to be, what is it?
So here you have 10 fields: display text, culture, content types, index options.
So this is custom, this is custom, this is custom here, these two.
I don't know what custom means. What I will ask is, some of these fields, well, all these fields come either from the source type, content items, or the index type, Elasticsearch, right? Display text or whatever, like display text comes from anything. Name comes from anything. Culture comes from what? It's because of the indexer or because of the content item?
Content item.
Content items. Content types, obviously, content items. Index options, it's an indexer, or it's
this right here?
I think it's a content also. No, index options.
This is content type.
You have two index options, actually. One, two above analyzer. Under content types, there is called index options, but this one is called content items.
I see, yeah. Yeah, this
analyzer,
change, yeah.
Analyzer is for the indexer. Right? It's like, because analyzer matters for Lucene, for instance, or Elasticsearch, just under index options. I'm just going down one by one. So yeah. Analyzer standard is Elasticsearch. Okay. Index options, store source data. Okay, this is to persist the source data. Okay, indexer. Query analyzer, default search type, and then default query field names is coming from the content items. Okay. This one is interesting. This one is interesting. We might keep it for later. So what you could have done is two tabs, one with the settings for the source, which is content items, one with the settings for the indexer, which are analyzers, store source data, query analyzer, default search type. Okay? You could have two tabs from two different drivers, right? And in the previous screen, you could have displayed a choice to select two things: the source, content items, and the destination, Elasticsearch. The first selection that you have in memory, because it's the same form, you can drive the driver for the first tab, which is the content item settings. And then the second checkbox, you will have driven the driver for the second tab, which is the Elasticsearch settings. Can't you do that? And then they are totally independent, and each driver is unique. And you can even reuse the driver for the content item index, or reuse the driver for the indexer settings.
Yeah, I honestly, you lost me.
Okay.
I'm not.
Well, we can do it offline, and I can show you what I mean in some other examples.
Yeah. I think what I understood is that you want to try to change this to something more concrete. So in this case, call it Elasticsearch index entity.
Honestly, this one for me is totally fine. It's just that, yes, instead of calling Elasticsearch content item index entity, I would call it Elasticsearch index entity display driver, and without the content. But
Which
what
one?
you did, the class name, you see,
Okay.
remove content, and I'm happy.
Well, this, so there's
That's
another
the
one
goal.
called.
Yeah, that won't work because the way you did that, but that's my ideal solution would be to have something that is not called this way.
So
And
here's the one that you're asking about. That's one called Elasticsearch index entity. So it doesn't have that word content.
Yeah.
But this one, you see, it's only for, so it will display every time the provider is Elastic, every single time. First, it's going to render the menu. And then also here, we're showing the analyzer name and the analyzers. So you can show because those are everywhere. Every time you're using Elastic, you need this. And also the query, the default query settings, that's also every single time you create an Elasticsearch. So this right here is reusable for all of them.
That's correct.
But the one that I showed you here, this one, it's called content for a reason, because this is only needed for content. And that's why I need this, because I don't want to show it every time. Only
I understand
when there's content. Yeah.
I think
so. I think that's fine.
That's called coupling, and then this should be in a different module called Elasticsearch content indexing module, and that's a different thing, and that should come.
It's a different feature. So today it's registered in a different feature.
So I think you will be able to find. I will help you, and what you've done is awesome already. You're just missing this part, which is somehow we need to be able to index something, and maybe you just need another abstraction. That might be what is needed, another thing called source, whatever, like content, like.
So I'm fine with changing. Okay, I'm just going to show you. So this is registered only when this feature is registered, when we have content. Okay, this is the Elastic.
That's great.
Okay,
that's great.
Okay, and then this one right here, this is the other one. This is registered all the time. Every time you have that feature.
I understand totally. Can you show me the field that is displayed from the coupled driver in the UI?
Still calling it coupled. This one.
The one I call coupled is the one called content index entity display driver. And
wait, that's not it. Hold on. This one is what you're talking about.
And in the UI, what does
only that one field? This is the field right here.
This thing?
Only, that's it. This is the option. This one is only for content. So I don't want this showing if you're creating a user. I want to show it only if you're doing content.
So, and now I have more questions. Like, I'm like, then why did you add the couple? Like, and I want to understand why just for content and not for the rest. Why does it matter that it's a content item and not a user? That you want to store data?
I mean, it might not matter, but that like for the content, well, no, because, so I'll tell you why, because in content, it makes sense. We need to know, right? But if you're storing users, maybe you want to create something for the users, and you're going to, on the back end, always store it. So when you define a source, you will say, okay, here's how I want to map my fields, for example, right? So you can specify how the fields, you want the fields to look like, and how you want them indexed. So maybe this option is irrelevant, whether you check it or not. For the users, it makes no difference. So why would we show something that is needed by content?
So this one actually,
but it's not really needed.
So if you had told me that the default query field names was the thing that you are displaying from this coupled driver, I would have understood. If you tell me it's the store source data, I don't understand. Store source data is about when the indexers should not only store the stemmed and tokenized content, but should also store the original untokenized content. And that applies to any source.
So you're saying that the store source should be part of the global one?
Yes. And why? It's because, like even for users, like you can have a name, right, for users. So it will probably index the username. And in this case, when you search for a username, you search from its components. Like I would find all mics, all Rosses, okay? They will all match because they are tokenized. You search the parts of it. But you also want, when you get the result, to show the initial data that you indexed. Okay, Mike, Alayek, Sebastian, Ross, the full thing. And that's where you check the box when you want to be able from the index to return the original untokenized data. And that applies to any source of data, not just content, not just username, just anything that you might want. So end users will decide, for this index, I don't care about the original, I just want to do searching. But for this index, I also want to be able to render the thing that you found in its original state, the full name or the full display name. That's why you click the store. So I think this one in particular has nothing to do with specific to content.
So this, you think, just move this out of here and put it as a global part of these, and that's that. Because if I do that, then I don't need that driver that you called coupled.
Yes, and that's why if you can't find a reason to couple a source to its destination, then there is no coupling. Okay, and if you find an actual reason, then we need to understand where we can add more decoupling in the thing. Like what is common to all sources, like that we should not have to create a concrete coupling. We need abstractions in this case. Store source data doesn't need an abstraction. Yeah, you can add it to any source. So.
Okay, that's fine. I can move that. Easy enough.
But then,
this will be part of the provider, like in Elastic, right?
Yes, because not a providers can store source data. Ours they can, but it doesn't mean they can all. Then, in your UI, you can decide to show 3 boxes. That is all the possible couples between sources and indexers. Fine. So the user will just say add content listing, but internally, you will have 2 information, content, and the other information is Lucid. Even if the user selected 1 box, for you, it's 2 pieces of data, okay? So you can drive 2 drivers, the one for the source and the one for the thing. I personally would prefer to select 2 things, the source, content, and the destination, Elasticsearch. It's up to you. It's UI.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think we're on the same page here. Now I understand what you're saying about
your UI works better if you have 1 source, because with my UI, you still have 2 solutions. But if you have 1 source and 1 destination, well, why? Yeah, it's content for Lucid. Why select show 2 lists? So when you have just 1 source or just 1 destination, your UI is better if you just show the list of possible couples, like content in Lucid. Okay, fine, that's what I want. Because that's what.
Yeah, but also at the same time, like I have also look at this, for example. So this driver is regardless, it's going to show up on every single provider. As long as the type is called content, we automatically show the content types, the culture, and latest or not. So that's exactly the reason why I need it done this way, because I can do that.
Yeah, or you could even change the location to be in a tab, like the content tab. It's up to the, and that's fine to have a single list driver in this case.
Yeah.
Your driver doesn't know about the provider, the indexer, right? There is nowhere Elasticsearch, and you don't have any driver doing that, because there is you should not have any property that will let you be able to limit that. If you have a property that contains that, the entity.type or whatever, like yeah. In this case, it's fine because you are in the module for indexing, so you need to know about the sources.
So I'll move this and I'll put it globally for the Elasticsearch. And I will change this to a unique name. So this way we don't have to pass ID in the front.
Good.
Beside that, do you have anything else?
Thank you. Well, I will come with some more things, don't worry.
Okay. Well, yeah, we need to look at it quick and try to get it moved.
I know.
Yeah.
Thursday.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so if you see something meanwhile, ping me, and or if you want to test drive the that branch and see what you think.
I trust you. I'm just giving you feedback based on the demo. Thank you. Okay, we are done. We have things to do. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, guys.
That's great. Don't worry. I'm just trying to improve the thing and to argue about everything I can see, but that's great.
Awesome. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.